Fall in, soldier! Listen up, recruits! I'm Gunnery Sergeant Felix Lubezki, host of SL Tonight, delivering EC war stories straight from the front lines of fear. Dive into twisted battlefield tales where heroes meet horror, soldiers battling unimaginable foes, betrayed comrades, striking shadows, and costly victories. Inspired by classic EC comics, each episode drags you into terror's trenches with gut-punching twists. Got the guts? Stick around. In war, survival's no guarantee. Fall in for tonight's tale. Fall in, soldiers! Felix Lubezki back on SL Tonight, and we're double timing it through EC Comics War Machine tonight. Two-Fisted Tales, issue 22, September to October 1951, and Kurtzman and the battalion are not letting up for a single panel. These aren't recruitment posters, these are foxhole confessions, ambush nightmares, and the kind of stories that make you think twice about who the enemy actually is. Rifles up, eyes front.
We begin with the central EC Comics cover, the heart of this web of evidence. Red strings link these war panels to cryptic military notes, suggesting hidden connections, a mystery in paper and ink.
Fall in, soldiers! Felix Lubezki back on SL Tonight. And tonight, Two-Fisted Tales issue number 22 is loading up one of the most stacked rosters EC ever put in a single issue. Jack Davis, Alex Toth, Wally Wood, John Severin, and Bill Elder, all under Kurtzman's editorial grip. 4 stories, 0 mercy, and at least one that is going to make you genuinely uncomfortable in the best possible way. Eyes front, let's read. Kurtzman's cover, and if you know Kurtzman's draftsmanship, you know what you're getting. Raw urgency, no glamour, figures that look like they're actually carrying weight. This cover is a promise about what's inside. Issue 22 keeps it. Story number 1, Enemy Contact. A combat encounter told through Davis's explosive kinetic line work. The chaos and speed is sudden contact with the enemy where training and instinct collide in the space of seconds. Jack Davis draws action the way a drummer plays. Every line has rhythm, every panel has momentum. Enemy contact doesn't let you settle. It keeps moving the way a firefight keeps moving, and you're trying to process it the same way men are in it are. For 2 days, contact with the enemy had been broken. 2 miles southeast of the Korean city of Agincourt, an American patrol moved up the road, probing for enemy resistance. At 1:30 or 13:30 Army time, the rear squad of the patrol platoon made enemy contact. Somewhere on the slope to the right of the road, an enemy machine gun opened up. Ditched an ammunition carrier, moved across a startled BAR man, then caught a rifleman running low for the protection of a stone wall, and finally splintered the door frame in a vain effort to claim another. A single machine gun burst. 3 seconds, and where a file of 12 men had walked, now nothing moved. Just silence and death. A dead house, looking like a pile of stone and timber, and 3 dead men, looking like 3 piles of rags. And as in a game of hide and seek, although nobody could be seen, you knew they were there, hiding behind anything that offered protection. I think they got Snuffy, Fitz, and Dalrymple. I warned them not to bunch up like that. We're pinned down good, and we're from the firing I heard down the road. It sounds like the rest of the platoon is having trouble, too. Can't we call through for air support, Lieutenant? We can try, but I doubt if any planes will get through that overcast. Hey, look! Them goes them. You gotta run across the field! Mississippi, get down! Spin, swing, swing down! Davis gives you a wordless sequence here, where the chaos speaks entirely through bodies in motion. Posture, angle, the physics of men under fire. No caption needed. Pause on this. Davis earned it. See what I mean, Mississippi? They got our number. We need every man here. Let's not go getting our heads knocked off. Anyone hurt? Just got a couple scratches from flying glass. Hey, you kid, did you get hit? What's wrong? What's the trouble, kid? Got a splinter in the stomach? No. Bellyache. All morning. Bellyache. This GI chow must be getting me down. I'll be alright. Falls over dead. We're sick. Man's sick. I've seen a case like this before. Appendicitis, Sergeant. Can't we contact a medic on like that walkie-talkie? Lieutenant, a medic's on the way from the 2nd platoon. He's gonna try to come and get through to us. Anybody who run that gauntlet is out of his mind, but it's the only chance. My guess this boy has acute appendicitis. If he isn't cut open soon, we won't need the medic. Just the Graves registration. Look, Lieutenant, here he comes. Here comes the medic. He'll never make it. Look, he's down. No, he's still coming. Come on, boy, come on. I made it. Hurry. Where's the fella? Appendicitis. Scrape a few things together. Get in touch with company headquarters. Rear echelon medical station. Whew. Now I caught my breath. Yep, it's acute appendicitis, alright. We'll have to operate right away to save him. Now listen, I'm not a doctor. I've got some sutures, ether, and a scalpel. But I'll have to get directions over the walkie-talkie from a doctor at headquarters. With a little luck, we can do it. I got the doctor on walkie-talkie. Okay, you tell me where he tells you. I'm all set with the ether. You guys stand by with the scalpel, gauze, suture, and anesthetic. Carefully cut through the outer layer of the skin just below and to the right of the navel. Get ready with the spoons I bent for clamps. Now carefully cut a tiny hole in the inner layer and enlarge it slowly so not to cut the intestine. Now reach into the cut and feel for the lower end of the large intestine. Take away my helmet! Pull out the end of the intestine and you'll find the appendix red and inflamed. Be careful not to puncture it. Get ready with them sutures. Now clamp off the blood flow from the intestine to the appendix with 2 clamps. Wipe my head and give me the scalpel. Cut between the 2 clamps and slice off the appendix. Sutures and gauze. Sponge off the blood, replace the intestine, sew up the layers of the flesh. Done. Your rifleman is saved, Lieutenant. The operation was a success. It's a miracle. Hot dog. Nice going, boy. Whew! There's a mortar up on that slope. They're getting the range on this house. Whoo! Scatter, men! Whoom! Wham! Look, fellas up in the sky. It's clearing. Look. Keep down, soldier. Look, no more clouds. And listen, planes. Our planes. Yeah, fly, boys. Yahoo! Yahoo! Oh, you beautiful airplane. Right in the nick of time. What a pasting. Yeehaw! Okay, men, let's get going. We can rejoin the platoon now. Say, medic, think it'd be safe to carry the kid you operated on back? Doesn't matter, Lieutenant. He was killed by that enemy mortar. And so men marched off to kill men. And it isn't any strange, while one instinct makes man move heaven and earth to save a life, let's go, men, makes man give it all to his fellow man.
Another less noble instinct makes man a cold, brutal, dispassionate monster. Lets him tear another man to pieces without mercy. Paradox, this puzzle marches on forever. But here is where our story stops. Kurtzman and Davis together are pure velocity. Enemy contact sets the tempo for the whole issue, and the issue is about to shift gears completely. Dying City. A city in wartime, not the battle for it, but what's left over. Toth's signature economy of line strips the environment down to its bones, making absence and ruin speak as loud as any action sequence. And here is where the issue shifts completely. Alex Toth is not Jack Davis. Where Davis gives you notion, Toth gives you stillness. Where Davis fills space, Toth removes it. Dying City uses that negative space like a weapon. Suwon, Korea. The bombers have passed, and behind there is left the dying sounds of the airplane motors. The awful sounds of dying men and a dying city. My eyes! My eyes! Who is it? Who walks there? Stay back or I shall kill you. Gently, gently, Kim. It is I, your grandfather. Put away your murder weapon, Kim, my son. There is no use for it now. Grandfather, I am blind. Help me. My son, you have been blind for some time. Like a potato, you have had eyes, but there are things you could never see. Yes, you have been blind. Remember when you swaggered into your father's house a year ago with your gun? We were sitting at the table for the chinyapop dinner, when you placed on the table before us spoiled our taste for food. What is this, Kim, my son? Is it not enough that you have troubled your mother by disappearing all day? Now you bring a pistol into my house. This is not just a pistol, my father. This is a symbol of freedom, of revolution. Soon I go north to join the North Korean People Army. In a month we shall free all of Korea with our pistols. Kim, let Sun Yoon hold pistol, Kim? Stay back, little Sun. The pistol is dangerous. The pistol is a weapon of murder. No good can come of a pistol. Guns can only lead to death. Throw your foolish gun away, Kim. Grandfather, you are old. Times are changing. Today the youth of Korea is joining the march of Russia and China to stamp out the enemies of the people. And youth is wild and foolish, my son. This can only end in bloodshed. Then if blood must be shed, so be it. What are 1,000 lives now compared to the millions of years of future happiness? I shall leave now. Monsai. Long live Korea. And so you left with your pistol to join the North. And when North Koreans came in June, the pistols had turned into ugly Russian-made tanks. Vroom, 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 boom, boom, boom. There are panels here where Toth draws almost nothing. A line of rubble, a single figure, open sky. And that emptiness is the story. The destroyed city, rendered in what Toth chose not to draw. This is one of the great show-don't-tell artists in comic history's work at full power. That night, your father was returning through the burning city with some food for us. The North Korean comrades, liberators of Korea, mistook him for a South Korean soldier and shot him down. We stood in this very spot, your mother, little son, your sister, and I watched the tank, gun spitting death. Watched the tank run down your poor father. Yes, it ran him down and did not stop an instant. It was a terrible thing to see. But it was not long before the Russian tanks came back. Once more, death and destruction came through our city. Close after the North Koreans came the soldiers from the United States and Europe, Englishmen, Frenchmen, Americans. Airplanes, tanks, cannons, guns, guns, guns. Everywhere there were guns. And again your North Koreans came back, and this time with the soldiers of China. The fighting swirled through the city. An American came running by our house. I'm hit! Got to take cover. What the heck? Don't you civilians know there's a war on? Get out of here! The American went in there, I think. Well then, we shall get him out. With a hand grenade. Coming straight off of Davis's kinetic firefight, landing in Toth's rune silence hits like a gut punch. That's Kurtzman's editorial instinct. He's arranging these stories like movements in a piece of music. Little son, dead. The whole family, gone. Grandfather, I am back. It is I, Grandfather, Kim. I have returned. The People's Army has the South Koreans and Americans on the run. I've been made an officer, Grandfather. I have come to take the family to safety. To safety? You come to take us to safety, Kim. You are late, my son. I'm afraid you are late. Listen, high-flying bombers, quick! We must get the family out of here. Hurry, Grandfather, where is the family? Where? Father, mother, sister! And then, Kim, my grandson, the bomb burst and burnt your eyes. But you were blind long before the war. You couldn't see what you were doing when you came home with your gun. You see then that your father would be crushed flat under the treads of a war tank? Did you see that your mother and little sister would be torn to pieces by a hand grenade? Did you see our city broken and ruined? Did you see the destroyed homes and factories? What does the future mean when everything you love is dead, my son? What is left? What good is your revolution? What good? What good? What good? American tanks roll into the blackened ruins of Suwon. Once more, the city has changed hands. Black smoke from burning oil of blasted war machines rolls over the sky, and amidst the rubble, an old man mumbles to a North Korean soldier. His body grows cold and begins to stiffen with rigor mortis. The thing that you can't see is actually he raises the gun up to underneath his neck. May not be able to see, but you can see that much. Dying City is quietly devastating. If this issue only had this story, it would still be worth your time. Massacre at Agincourt. Kurtzman reaches back to 1415, the Battle of Agincourt, and puts Wally Wood on. Medieval warfare rendered with Wood's extraordinary detail and draftsmanship. Service of the same anti-war thesis driving the Korean War story. Wally Wood on a medieval battlefield. Take a moment with that. Wood's draftsmanship, the armor, the longbows, the sheer density of detail he puts into a period piece is something else entirely. This is a man who could draw anything and make it look inevitable. The year was 1450 AD. 15 AD. The morning was October 25th, St. Crispin's Day. The place was France, where Henry V, King of England, was marching his weary army back to Calais on English Channel. But between the English and the sea at Agincourt stood the French army. This was the shape of things preceding the massacre at Agincourt. Frenchmen, see the campfires of the British out there and listen. They play music, they'll play a merrier tune later, then we kill them. Oh, my joints. If I sit another hour on this horse in this accursed rain, I shall never be able to lift my sword. How long shall we have to sit and stare at the British? I hear that we shall wait for the Duke of Britain and the de Lorne to join us with their armies. Wait. Why should we wait? I, Edouard René de Gascogne, say we should attack at dawn. It is said that the English have many tricks up their sleeves, new secret weapons that will revolutionize warfare. Revolutionize warfare? Bah! Our weapons are the finest made and the finest that ever shall be made. How can the English revolutionize warfare? An armor be finer than this? A bassinet of German steel, a hauberk of the finest chainmail. Can anything stand before the charge of the lance, the stroke of the broadsword, the blow of the mace, or the sting of the dagger? No weapons are better or ever will be better than these. The British cannot surprise us now or ever. Look, the sun is rising. Look, now we can see the English. As the sun rose in the sky, the English army could be seen drawn up for battle. In the front ranks the archers stood in a row, rows of stakes pushed into the ground before them. Behind the archers stood the pikemen, the men-at-arms, King Henry and his knights. "Look at them, archers in the front ranks. We can flatten them into the ground with one gallant charge." "No, we can afford to wait for our reinforcements. The English can only grow weaker with waiting, while we grow stronger." "We'll have waited all afternoon. We will be old men by the time we battle. We outnumber the Englishmen 4-1. We are fully equipped to fight anything. Let us not wait another moment." And in the English army, King Henry knew that he could not afford to wait too long, much less the French. "It would be foolish to wait any longer for the French to move against us. We attack. Bid the longbowmen release a cloud of arrows." And at this point in history, the longbow caught man's attention. Longbow fitting a long arrow, well wielded by a strong arm of the English longbowman, accurate and deadly. The longbow, newly fashioned in Britain, designed to cover a distance with more power than a crossbow. At a signal, 12,000 bowstrings were plucked, and mighty shout rose from 12,000 English throats as 12,000 arrows sang through the air in a wicked arc, descending with terrifying accuracy on the heads of the French. Wood gives you a wide panel of the battlefield that functions almost like a painting. The geometry of medieval combat, mass of bodies, specific horror of an arrow volley rendered in ink with the kind of precision that makes you understand why this battle was a massacre. No narration, just Wood's draftsmanship doing all the work. The first wave of arrows staggered the French line of men at arms who had begun to charge upon perceiving the English movement. Wounded horses turned back into the onrushing ranks of Frenchmen. French men at arms were a horrible tangle, and the English no closer than a bowshot. "Frenchmen, I, Sir Edron René de Gascony, ask you to rally. Are we with our army afraid of bows and arrows? Let us show them our steel. The genius of Kurtzman's dropping a 1415 story into a 1951 Korean War comic is the same move he made with cavalry. The dates changed, the weapons changed, the math doesn't. Agincourt is Korea, as every field where men were sent to die for ground they'd never owned. Only 3 Frenchmen reached and broke through the British archers' harrow, and their victory was short-lived. In a matter of minutes, the French cavalry had been rendered helpless. Now the English archers slung their bows over their shoulders and picked up their sidearms. Billhooks, glaives, mauls, axes, and Sir Edouard de Gascony now lay like a turned turtle, helpless in his heavy armor, staring dully at the arrows sticking through his breastplate. And this he could barely see through the narrow soot between his visor and helmet. He also saw the sharp point of the pike, as the English pikemen drove it home to end the career of the man who believed that the art of war had gone as far as it could go. But he was wrong. The English, with their new longbow tactics, had managed to kill 10,000 Frenchmen, where the French had struck down 1,600 Englishmen. The French were put to flight, English went home. The Battle of Agincourt was ended, and a new phase of warfare began. And it had a long way to go. The end. Massacre at Agincourt is the most visually ambitious story in the issue. Wood earns every inch of that title. Chicken. The issue's most psychologically loaded story. The weight of that word alone in a military context tells you where Kurtzman is going. Severin and Elder's collaboration brings both technical precision and expressive character work to a story about courage, cowardice, and what those words actually mean under fire. And here's where Kurtzman swings hardest. In 1951 military comic, that word, loaded with everything, shame, pride, the social machinery of how soldiers police each other's fears. Kurtzman is walking straight into it. It's the year 1945. The Japanese island of Okinawa is still being cleaned out by GIs and Marines. Somewhere below Yanbaru, the two men crouch just out of line of fire of a Japanese gun. One man is Lieutenant Robert Hall, a good Joe, and the other is Captain Harold Black, who is chicken. You heard me, Lieutenant. Climb up that embankment and cross that field to the sugar mill. A moment. I must think a moment. Lord, I'm mad, but I must think. That pompous fool, waving his twin nickel-plated .45, he didn't know better. He knows all the Army regulations, knows the Articles of War by heart, but one thing he doesn't know. Never knew it for a minute, never knew it when he took command of B Company, never knew it this morning when we plodded towards the front. You, soldiers, step over here. Me, sir? Didn't you hear my orders about keeping buttons buttoned and not rolling up your sleeves? Yes, sir. Report to me when we get back from this mission. I'll knock discipline in this company even if I have to court-martial every man jack of you. Now, where's the leader of this platoon? Here, sir. Ah, Lieutenant Hall, just as I thought. Climb in this jeep, sir. Hall, what kind of an officer are you anyway? You mingle freely with the enlisted men, and you don't carry out my orders. When I tell you to keep the men from unbuttoning uniforms, rolling up sleeves, not shaving, putting hands in pockets, I expect you to do it. How can I enforce discipline? Captain, these men are facing death every day. Silence! Silence until I ask for an answer. Go back to your platoon, Hall. We will settle this when we get back. John Severin and Bill Elder together is a fascinating combination. Severin's technical rigor and Elder's expressive looseness pushing against each other in the same panels. Watch how that tension in the art mirrors the tension in the story. Not an accident. He didn't know, not even when we approached the combat area. You can tell when you are approaching combat. You see the signs all around you, and you can smell it too. Smell of death and the stench of decay. And then the MPs directing on the fringe of the combat area. Alright, gentlemen, our objective is to take a sugar mill up ahead, intact if possible, which the enemy is using as an observation post. I will go ahead with the squad, try to locate the enemy defenses. The rest of the company will follow when you get word from me. Lieutenant Hall, you will bring a squad of your men and follow me now. Let's go, first squad. So I took first squad of my platoon and we followed the captain striding down the road, the nickel-plated .45 swinging by his side. And soon, there it is. Alright, Lieutenant, divide the squad to approach the mill in two groups. The captain, that's a pretty open field. Don't you think it might be better to... Lieutenant Hall, when I want your advice, I'll ask for it. Now get going. There's a panel, and I won't tell you where it lands in the story, where a character's face says everything, and the script says nothing. Severin draws faces the way a portrait painter does, with full psychological weight. Elder's influence gives it an edge of something almost uncomfortable, like the image knows it's being watched. Sit with it. Blam, 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 blam. The whole squad wiped out. Every one of those men on that open field. And even worse, Hall, we haven't located those Japanese machine guns. Guess you'll have to go back to the platoon and get another squad. Captain, what's the matter with you? You can't send men to their deaths. Lieutenant, you get that squad or I'll go get them. But Lieutenant, you don't seem to know much about discipline. We'll have this whole thing out once and for all later. Lieutenant Hall, we were just about to send a messenger to you and the captain. The message just arrived from regimental headquarters. They want us to get out. They're going to blast this whole area with big guns. Machines are going to concentrate an artillery barrage on that sugar mill. Good. Pull the company out. I'll get the captain and follow you. Captain Black, Hall, where is the squad? Now listen. You listen, you wispy shavetail. I gave you an order. You think you're the general of this outfit? You have fucking 90-day wonders get a bar and you want to run the whole show. 12 years I served in the army. I had to work for my bars. What'd you do? A moment, I gotta think. That pompous fool yelling at me, waving that nickel-plated .45 in my face like a cowboy. But I mustn't lose my temper. Now listen, Hall, you're gonna get out there and crawl around that field and let the Japs shoot at you, or by the Lord Harry, I'll shoot at you. That's an order. Like hell I will. You know all the rules and regulations, Captain, but there's one thing you don't know. What don't I know, huh, First Lieutenant Hall? What? Blam, 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 blam! I could do it. I was with my rights. He didn't follow orders. I could shoot him. The company. Where's my company? Company B, over here. Company B, where are you? Vroom. Company B. What didn't I know, Lieutenant Hall? Company B, Lieutenant Hall. Boom. Bam. Boom. What didn't I know? Chicken Captain Harold Black is so completely blasted to bits, he'll be listed missing in action. What is it he didn't know? Very simple. He knew his infantry, the ARs, he knew his regulations front and back, he knew the articles of war inside and out, memorized the ARs, knew the TO by heart. He could command soldiers, drill soldiers, march soldiers, but what he didn't know was that soldiers are human beings like you and me. That's all. Chicken is the story that justifies the whole issue structure. Kurtzman saved it for last because they asked the hardest question. Not what war does to cities or to bodies, but what it does to the eternal language men use to understand themselves. That's the deepest cut EC made in 1951, and it lands here. That is Two-Fisted Tales, issue number 22. Davis, Toth, Wood, Severin, and Elder, under Kurtzman, and One Comic Book, 1951. What does this issue do that almost nothing else on the stands in 1951 was doing? It treats war as a subject worthy of the same artistic seriousness as any other human experience. Not as entertainment, not as adventure, as testimony. Look at the range of this single issue. Davis gives you the kinetic immediacy of contact. Feel the speed of it. Toth gives you the aftermath, the silence that follows destruction. Wood reaches back 5 centuries to prove the point isn't specific to Korea or World War II. It's structural, it's human, it repeats. And Severin and Elder close it out on the psychological level. Not the city, not the battlefield, but the interior of a man deciding who he is under the worst possible pressure. That is 4 different angles on a single thesis. Kurtzman is doing something closer to journalism than entertainment here, and he is using the best artists in comics to do it. That is why these books matter. This is why we're reading. Next up, Frontline Combat issue number 2. Head down. And that's the debrief. Felix Lubezki signing off from SL tonight after Two-Fisted Tales issue 22. Davis, Toth, Wood, Severin, Elder, Kurtzman. That's the roster. If that issue doesn't stay with you, check your pulse. Hit subscribe. Drop a comment on which story hit hardest. Fall in next time for Frontline Combat issue 2. Dismissed! Fall in, soldiers. Felix Lubezki back on SL tonight.